Well, Coasters, it's Bruce here, and hey, beautiful coast day. That scenery in behind me, that's Lake Canary, stunning place. Now, one of the things that upsets me most is when I hear the stories of Kiwis who are grounded offshore, and they've all got a different story, and they all say, "Well, look, my case is not as bad as this one," and but they're actually all bad because they've all got a New Zealand passport. They all are taxpayers when they come home to New Zealand. They're all guaranteed under the Bill of Rights the right of entry and the right of exit from the country. And for those that are offshore, that go offshore to work, they're our heroes. They're out there doing it. They do it for themselves, but they do it for New Zealand. And when they come home, they're a hell of a lot more skilled, and they're just brilliant Kiwis. Today, and they're right around the world. Now, today, I'm talking to Ryan Caldwell, and he's in Colorado. So it's our first one in Colorado. Ryan, welcome to the show. Really appreciate you saying yes.
Thanks very much, Bruce. I'm happy to be here.
Now, Ryan, that's a Kiwi accent.
Yeah. So Bruce, I'm a Kiwi through and through. I'm from South and I live in Dunedin these days. I've just been away a little bit longer than I thought.
So you're a South Island man?
Absolutely.
Oh, there we go, Coasters. This guy will be a piece of cake to talk to, guaranteed. Now, yeah. What took you to America?
It was a love story, really. I was with an American girl that I met in New Zealand for 18 months, and she actually did the lockdown 2020, did that year with me in Dunedin. But it got to the end of that year, and she'd been away from her place in the States for 3 years by that point, so she wanted to go home. And so I thought, okay, it's an uncertain time in the world, but I did plan to go and see her. And I did some more of the work projects that I do in New Zealand, and then the time came, I thought, okay, it's if I want to take the opportunity, I really need to try and go now, despite the uncertainty. So I left while she came over 2020 Christmas. I, in 2021, went to the States in June, near the end of June of 21.
Oh.
And that was the reason, to go and catch up with her.
She must be a bit of a treasure, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was one of those things where it's like, well, okay, I've met this person, and it could go somewhere. But it won't if I don't try. And normally you can. So I thought, okay, I'll do it.
Good on. I love your attitude. And hey, look, what sort of work do you do in New Zealand?
So in Dunedin, I'm a tiler, painter. I do a lot of renovation stuff. My speciality is tiling and painting. So between either myself or team up with a couple of people I know, and we tackle renovations. Yeah.
Well, it's a good market to be in at the moment, isn't it?
It was when I left. I hope it's still pretty good when I get back, because I left a lot of work, and I was supposed to be only away 3 months, and obviously I was going to come back and just go back doing the bookings that I had, and I've obviously not been able to do that. So
you went away in June. You're going to come back in August or September?
September, yeah. I have a 3-month visa waiver program in America where you can be here for 3 months and no more, and then you got to leave, in which case I was just going to go back to New Zealand and carry on with what I was doing, and then reassess, where am I at with things. But that's not the way it's gone.
So Ryan, what was what sort of process did you go through? I mean, a lot of us in New Zealand don't really understand what you've got to put up with trying to get into the lottery system. So you're ready to come back to New Zealand and say, August, what did you do? Book your flights, book your ticket? What actually happened?
Yeah, so I just had a return ticket, which was to leave on the 21st of September. But I was unable to secure the MIQ spot before I left. But I thought, surely with the 3 months that I'll be away, I'll be able to get one. And I understood that if I didn't, there was emergency criteria which I knew I would qualify for. So the process for trying to get a spot in those days was you had to sit at the computer, and some people were doing this literally just all day and just clicking refresh on the screen, hoping one would come up, because as soon as they come up, they go away, because there must be tens of thousands of Kiwis around the world trying to do the same thing. And I got to the end of my time and I still didn't have spot. So I applied for emergency allocation. I've done that 3 times, and each time it's denied. Now I do fit the criteria. The criteria, there's a lot of them, but the category I would fall under would be if I have a New Zealand passport, but I do. That's the only passport I have. And I am unable to stay wherever I am in the world for reasons such as your visa is expired and you can't get another one. So you have to kind of prove that you have tried. And so I worked with the United States Customs and the Citizenship Bureau to see if I could do anything. And of course the answer is no. You can't change your visa. We won't let you work. We won't let you do anything. And so I got that confirmation from them and said that they won't let me stay. But New Zealand's response was still just no. And I queried them on it, and because you can, as they say, escalate the application to see if anyone else would take you more seriously, but it just never went anywhere. And I tried that again, and it still never went anywhere. So I never understood it. I never got an explanation, only that they said that I essentially need to be more severe. And then when I looked around at other people because there's large Facebook groups for these other New Zealanders that are trapped, and I'm seeing some of the other stories where people need health care or they need to get home because someone that they look after needs health care, or someone's going to die, or someone's being born, whatever it is, like some really good reasons for wanting to get back to New Zealand. They were all being shut out of, even through applying for emergency allocation. So I realized that like my chances weren't going to happen, so that then they changed. Come the end of September, they decided they were going to change to the lottery system. So the way the lottery system works is exactly how it sounds. The MIQ people will say, and they'll change this every week or every 2 weeks, depending on if there are any beds to open up. They'll say, you need to be online between this and this time. If you're there within that hour, you're logged on, you'll then go through like a computer allocated number, anywhere from 1 to however many are applying. Now that's usually somewhere around 30,000 people.
Oh, God.
And your number is just going to fall in there, and they might be releasing 2,500 rooms, 3,000 rooms, 4,000 rooms, but I haven't seen it released no more than say 4,500 rooms at a time. And then so obviously you're usually going to miss out. Now then when you miss out, maybe, and you don't know, this is the other frightening part about it, is they don't tell you anything about when the next allocation will be. It could be in a week, it could be 2 weeks, or they might just change their mind and there's none. So then you just go, and this is what people are struggling with so much, you just go into that cave of uncertainty and people panic. They just don't know when it's going to end. And so for me, I think I applied about 7 times, missing out each time, because the strange part is they don't have just a simple queue where if I, in the lottery, the first lottery, got number 21,000, why don't I stay at number 21,000 and just work my way towards the front of the queue? It doesn't work like that. The next time I might be 15,000, then I might get down to 7,000 and think I've got a chance, and then I don't, and then I'm way back up at 25,000. So you're throwing around like that, and that's the other thing that's just really disheartening. And there's I don't understand why they would do that. It doesn't really make any sense. It's just not fair. Yeah.
So the situation at the moment then is that you must be an overstayer, unable to work.
Yep. Correct.
That's disastrous. So there's only one bit of upside there, and that is that you probably got to see a wee bit of the young lady you've been tracking around.
Yeah. So here's the other uncertainty is it got to a certain point with me and my lady, and we said, like, I don't think we'll go any further. So then I was in the situation where I couldn't say, okay, well, that's okay, I'll go back to New Zealand. I mean, that was what was at least what you would do. So, well, we'll try it out. We'll see what we think, and if it doesn't work out, I'll go home. But I just couldn't do it. So I didn't get to stay with her anymore, and then I had nowhere to stay. So then, like, the worst part was that I'm going through a breakup with someone I care about, and then I need to work out, well, where will I go? But I can't work, so I can't support myself. So it's not like, oh, you can just go stay in a hostel somewhere, because a lot of the hostels here got shut down through thanks to COVID and whatnot. So accommodation is obviously expensive. It doesn't really matter where you are in the world, but I'm in the US. Accommodation is quite expensive, and if I'm not working, it just becomes so much harder. And then, of course, you do what you like. You do what you can. You take cash if you can. You just find whatever work you can. But and people don't quite understand that, like, the US is actually, the labour market is that they actually need people to work for them, but without being able to go in and say, I have a social security number and a bank account, etc. You're asking for cash, and you are something of a burden to them. So you might win, you might not, but you have so few options, and no one's, you're just on your own. No one's going to help.
Have you found any support networks in New Zealand? Are there any support networks? It's a terrible situation to be in, because we're now in January 2022. When will you come home?
So it has only worked out for me. I suspect that I have an MIQ spot now for March the 2nd.
Fantastic.
And the reason the reason I think I got it was because, if you remember, in December, they started to announce that they're going to allow New Zealanders that are vaccinated, come February 14, they were going to let vaccinated New Zealanders come in with just self-isolate.
Correct.
So a lot of those people, I think thousands of people that were desperate for an MIQ spot for a couple of weeks or so there, they just didn't apply because they thought, okay, I don't need to now. And I applied anyway. And I noticed that I was, well, that's when I got my spot.
Yeah.
And I did see through the Facebook group that I'm in that a few other people all of a sudden got lucky, like, a lot of other people, because there was only about 2,900 or something like that rooms available, and so it wasn't a lot of room. So for the fact that I'm normally used to trying to apply with 30,000 other people, and there's only 2,900 rooms available this time, and I got one, I can only assume that most people weren't applying because of that. And now, of course, the government changed their mind, and so all those people are just gutted, just devastated, because now they're back to all the uncertainty.
Oh, it's a tragic situation. And so you'll be home in March?
I'll be home March the 4th in New Zealand time is when I'll arrive, and then I'll go into the MIQ 10 days. I think that's what they're doing. Yeah.
Well, look, Ryan, best of luck getting home, because the crazy part is we are so desperate in New Zealand for plasterers, for plumbers, for electricians, for renovation people. We're desperate. I mean, we've got jobs that are being shut down because we can't get tradesmen. You're over there. You're locked up with a New Zealand passport. We can't get you here. I mean, the world's gone crazy. You didn't think of just telling the government you're a DJ.
I just can't believe that. I can believe it because this is the silly stuff that happens, but I don't, it doesn't make any sense. There's nothing fair about anything that's going on. If you're a special someone, you can come and go. In fact, you don't even bother isolating. I mean, why would you take it seriously? It's something of a joke, and ultimately I see more damage done where it just didn't need to be done. They didn't need to do it like this, is my opinion. But we were asked about, am I getting support in New Zealand? Look, not really. My personal friends that know what is going on, there'd be a certain subset of them who really care and understand. Then there'd be the rest of them that wouldn't relate. They just wouldn't get it. The people are just carrying on with their lives in New Zealand, and it seemed, from what I can tell, people are just, the most important thing is still this idea of trying to keep COVID out. And I mean, I'm in the US. That horse bolted a long time ago, and it will for New Zealand as well. So in some senses, being here at least exposes me to what the world can be like when you just try to muddle through, but New Zealand's just taking another tack.
Ryan, I've got a brother who works in Texas on and off, and when I talked to him about what's it actually like, with COVID, he said, well, you don't actually see it. What actually is it like in Colorado? Is it, like
for a New Zealander coming here? I understand that people at home are having to go to a cafe. You have to use a QR code and put a mask on and things. It's not like that here. There are some venues that will ask to see your vaccination status, in which case most people just have a screenshot of a handwritten thing that they got, and they just say on their phone, they'll say, oh, there's my photo, and they take a quick look and that's done. Yep. Most places don't do that. Most of the time I've been here, there's been no mask wearing. Recently, we come into the winter and COVID cases have been like going up again. So the city of Denver said, okay, we'll ask you to put your mask on going indoors. But it depends where you are. There's a great deal. America's so diverse. There's certain communities that wouldn't ask you to do anything. I just went to the largest Western American stock show. It's the largest one in the country, right. And very few people wearing masks. There's absolutely no asking for any vaccination status at all. That particular community I think just wouldn't have it. So I think people coming here would probably be surprised to just see that people are just carrying on with life. And I remember this years ago, I was lucky enough to travel from New Zealand to Italy, and I had to go through Singapore, and it was when the SARS outbreak was happening. Right. And everybody was worried sitting in New Zealand about what it could possibly mean. But we went anyway, this school trip, this rugby trip we took.
2008, was it? Was it 8?
That was 2003.
2003, yep.
Yeah. And it was... everything's fine. You went through the Singapore airport, some people are wearing masks, some people aren't, and then you got to Italy and then everyone forgot about it. It just wasn't a problem. And I don't I'm not minimizing what COVID can do. Some people have died. Some people get very sick. I've had it myself. It felt like the flu I've had before in my life. And it sort of set me back for a good 10 days. All I did was I stayed in bed. I slept a lot. I was aching. I took Sudafed and vitamins and drank water and got better. And it's the same thing I've experienced in the past. I never saw a doctor. There's nothing, they don't even ask you to see a doctor here. They just say, look, if you do get this, chances are it won't be that bad. If it is really, really bad, go talk to your doctor. But if it's not, please stay home. So that's what I did.
So Ryan, have you had any contact with this Omicron? Is it over there? Do you hear about that or?
Yeah, and no one knows what they've got. Omicron's around. There's a lot of press for that in the States that they think that it's most of the cases of COVID now Omicron. But if you come down with COVID here now, no one's going to tell you if you've got Omicron. No one tells you what strain you've got. You've just got COVID. Well, you're sick anyway. Sometimes people get sick and they pretty damn sure they've got COVID, but they'll return a negative test. I had a friend the other day that told me that he knew he had COVID because he knew he was exposed to it and he was feeling pretty bad, but he got tested 3 times and it said negative 3 times.
Wow.
And then other people that it's the opposite, where they go, I think I've got a cold, but it might be COVID, so I'll go get tested, and then it comes back positive, and they go, oh, well, I've got COVID. It doesn't tell you what strain you've got, but then they just take care of themselves, and 3 days later they're fine. They don't know if they had COVID or not. I would say I definitely did, because it was I've had the flu about twice in my life before this, and it felt like that. So it's like it knocked me back pretty well. I got pretty weak, but I got better. And the thing about the States is they, depending on where you are, some people will make you get some places will make you get the vaccine regardless. Other places will leave it up to you to decide. There are certain areas where they will say, look, if you've come down with COVID, you are not to get the vaccination for 90 days at least. there is some estimates out there that your natural immunity is at least good for 90 days, and it would be more of a risk than anything to take the vaccine. There's a lot of other information out there that would suggest that you would never need the vaccine if you've got natural immunity, but depends which side of the fence you're on. But, in America, the place is so big, it's so diverse that there's a bit more room for people to think and decide for themselves.
Yeah, we're certainly we've got a society at the moment that's being controlled by fear, or fear plays a huge part in a lot of people's lives, and it's because we can get 40 items on the TV during a 4-hour period, and it's all COVID related, COVID, Omicron, all sorts of things, and it's I think it's more, it's a bit of a worry to me. Tell me, Colorado. Now, I've never been to Colorado. What's it like?
It's a big place, man. It's it'll take you something like 7 hours to drive from one end to the other, and it's it's a big square. So in its geography. So, and then you've got these just huge mountains that are running through most of it. So if you want to pass from east to west, east is where the flat is, and then you've got to get west, you're gonna have to go through and over the mountains, and they're big, but they don't say looking in your background there. You can see mountains there will just sort of rise up out of nothing. That's what New Zealand can be like. But in Colorado, it's sort of like a gradual, you'll get to the foothills, and they do look like large hills, and then you cannot see the top of these high mountains at all, but you just go up and up and up and up and up for hours in your car until all of a sudden you're at 9 or 10,000 feet, and then you can get straight out of the car and go skiing.
And is that the Rocky Mountains?
Yeah, so the Rocky Mountains, they just call them the Rockies. I think they would generally refer to maybe all of them as that. There is the Rocky Mountain National Park. Now, that's a large park that I did go visit in the summer. It was a little hazy because they get a lot of summer fires here, so they were still suffering from that. So the place is, Colorado is very, very, very dry, and they rely on a big snow season to fill up the water reserves again.
Yep.
But it's been very dry. Yeah.
Incredible.
But
it's people my age, of course, know Colorado because of John Denver.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Country roads. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. Well, look, Ryan, look, thanks so much for talking to us. One of the things I can tell you is that I've had a lot of emails in where people have been concerned that keyboard warriors throw stones at someone offshore who wants to come home. To me, that's just disgusting. I can't stand them. I delete them. I just, what I can tell you is that people in New Zealand, and particularly in the South Island, and the way you roll your R's there, particularly in Southland, we actually do care. We want you home, and we are trying to put the stories out so the politicians actually pick up on what's really happening out there. And but I can assure you that people absolutely care. We'd love to see you home, and I'm sure Dunedin will be much better off when you finally get back there.
Bruce, it's actually really it fills you with something good to hear that kind of thing from other New Zealanders, because you're right, the keyboard warriors do sort of make a lot of noise, but when you talk to regular Kiwis, I think we have always stood for good things about democracy, and just to be able to, look at where we are in the world. We've always said it was a good thing to go away, do things, travel to the other side of the world. I think everybody knows more than one person who's living abroad at any one time, and we're normally very proud of that. So I would think that most New Zealanders still want to keep that going, and I know that fear is ruling everything at the moment. But I really look forward for it all to pass, and I hope that this is just something that we never forget, and say we didn't really need to handle it like this, because there's a lot of people suffering and overseas as well.
We've got 5 million in New Zealand. We've got 1 million offshore. Of those, look, who knows whether it's 30,000 or 60,000 want to come home. And we encourage. I mean, historically, we've encouraged our kids. You better head offshore. Get offshore.
We've always said that.
Try to go offshore. And when you come home, you'll be a man. We can't wait. It'll be great.
That's what we do. I know, it's exactly our attitude, and it's so strange. If I ever run into another New Zealander or an Australian here, everybody's like, they're very like, just, they're so concerned and gutted, to see that could be changing where we're in our societies now. And if you talk to an American about it and you say, look, I got locked out, and they say, oh, is it because of COVID? And they say, and you sort of tell them about it, they go, so wait, you're a New Zealand citizen and you can't go home? And say, yeah. And I'll say, in fact, if you want to go to New Zealand, you've got the exact same chance on an American passport as I do on a New Zealand passport. And they just can't believe it.
No, none of us can. Absolutely none of us can. Well, look, Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah,
best of luck. Look forward to seeing you in March, coming back to the country. And look, I've enjoyed this interview. You're very articulate, and
oh, great. Appreciate it.
It's quite neat. So best of luck, and look, we'll catch you later.
Thanks, Bruce. I really appreciate it, mate, and keep fighting the good fight.